He just wanted to buy vegetables. But when the undercover boss saw his manager yelling at an elderly woman, he froze. Not because of the shouting, but because behind that outburst, it was a secret that would shatter everything. What will he uncover next? No one was ready. Not the customers. Not even him. One moment of cruelty. One hidden truth. And a choice that would change every life in that store. Ethan Wells didn't plan to stop. He was just supposed to swing by the grocery store, pick up some vegetables for his wife's dinner and head home. But the moment he stepped into the Brightmart supermarket, something felt off. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. A tired cashier argued quietly with a customer over a coupon. The produce section looked half empty, wilted greens shoved into soggy bins. Ethan adjusted his baseball cap lower, keeping his face in shadow as he pushed a shopping cart forward. Nobody recognized him here. Nobody knew that the quiet man in jeans and a plain hoodie was the CEO of the entire Brightmart chain. He liked it that way. He paused near the tomatoes, pretending to examine them while watching the staff. There wasn't much laughter, no warmth. The team moved mechanically, avoiding eye contact like shadows passing through routine, but then he heard it. A voice, sharp, cutting through the store like a whip. I said the coupons expired. Either pay the full price or get out of my line. Ethan turned. At register 3, a woman stood, trembling slightly, clutching a small basket of groceries. Her hair was silver white, thin and wispy. Her glasses slid down her nose. She looked down at the coupon in her wrinkled hands as if it had betrayed her. I didn't know. I thought, she stammered. The manager stood behind the counter, arms crossed, towering over her. Not my problem, lady. Pay up or leave. You're holding up my line. Ethan felt a slow burn rise from his chest. The shoppers behind the elderly woman shifted, uncomfortably avoiding the scene. A couple of teenagers nearby snickered. The woman's eyes welled up as she reached into her purse, pulling out coins, counting with shaking fingers. Hey. Ethan stepped forward before he could stop himself. The manager whipped his head around. What? I'll cover it, Ethan said quietly. Ring it up. The manager sneered. Who even are you? Just a customer, Ethan replied, handing over a card. Ring it up. Reluctantly, the manager completed the sale, sliding the woman's items into a crumpled plastic bag. There. Happy? The woman turned to Ethan, tears glistening behind her lenses. Thank you, young man. Bless you. Ethan offered a small smile. Take care of yourself, ma'am. She nodded gratefully and shuffled away, her cane tapping softly against the tile. But Ethan didn't move. He kept watching the manager. Something about the man's smirk, the way he barked orders at the teenage cashier, the dismissive flick of his hand toward another customer asking for help. Something didn't sit right. Hey, Joe, the manager hollered across the store at a stock boy slouching near the dairy section. Get your lazy ass over here and clean up aisle 7. You missed a spot yesterday. The boy flinched and hurried away. Ethan's fingers curled around the handle of his cart. This wasn't just bad service. This was a broken culture, and it was happening under his watch. He pushed his cart aside and walked slowly toward the employee-only door behind the registers. A teenage girl stacking gum packets looked up nervously. Sir, that's for staff. Ethan flashed his corporate ID, tucked it quickly back into his pocket. I know. He stepped inside, and what he saw in the stockroom made his stomach twist. A row of boxes marked Organic Produce Premium was stacked against the wall. Each box had a faint black X marked across the shipping label. Next to them, a door swung open, leading to the alley. A man in a red apron wheeled out a dolly, loaded with the same marked boxes, straight into an unmarked white van. The manager stood nearby, counting bills into a brown envelope. Ethan froze. So that's why the shelves were empty. Why customers complained about missing items. Why employees seemed beaten down. It wasn't just bad management, it was theft. And the manager wasn't just yelling at customers. He was robbing them. Ethan's jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone. This, he whispered to himself, hitting the record button, just became personal. Ethan stepped back into the store, his heart pounding harder than it should for a man who'd only come for vegetables. But now he wasn't just a customer. Now he was a hunter, tracing the scent of something rotten beneath his company's skin. He watched the manager slip the envelope into a drawer under the register, glancing around before shutting it with a quiet click. Then the man barked at a cashier for missing a price override. Ethan leaned against a shelf of canned beans, observing. Every interaction told him more. The workers avoided the manager's gaze as if he were a loaded gun. Customers were served quickly but without warmth. And Joe, the quiet stock boy he'd seen earlier, kept stealing nervous glances toward the back room. Something's off with him, Ethan thought. He pushed his cart forward, stopping beside Joe as the kid stacked cereal boxes. Busy day, huh? Ethan said casually. Joe startled. Yeah. You new here? Ethan asked. Joe hesitated. A couple of months. Manager treating you okay? Joe pressed his lips together. He's tough. Tough. That word carried weight. Ethan glanced down at Joe's hands. Small cuts along the knuckles, a bruise darkening under the sleeve. How's the pay? Ethan pressed. Joe shrugged, eyes darting toward the office. Pays enough. The manager's voice bellowed across the store again. Joe, breaks over. Get the pallet jack and hurry the hell up. Joe flinched, dropping a box. Sorry, sir, he mumbled, scrambling to pick it up. Ethan clenched his jaw. He'd seen enough. He left his cart abandoned near the produce and walked toward the customer service desk. A teenage girl manning the counter perked up. Can I help you, sir? Yeah, Ethan said calmly. Call district operations. Tell them Mr. Wells needs a full audit at this location starting immediately. The girl blinked. Wait, Mr. Wells? Ethan smiled faintly. That's right. He handed her a business card. Her eyes widened. You're the... Shh. Ethan winked. Keep it quiet, but get them on the phone. She nodded rapidly and grabbed the phone. As she dialed, Ethan turned back toward the floor. The manager was chewing out an elderly employee for clocking in late. Joe stood nearby, head down, trying to be invisible. Ethan's chest tightened. They were more than underpaid. They were trapped, a tap on his shoulder. The customer service girl held out the phone. District's on the line, sir. Ethan took it. This is Wells. I need compliance here in an hour. Quietly. And I want copies of every shipment invoice for the past 6 months. Don't alert management. And send someone from legal. Yes, sir. The voice crackled back. He handed the phone back. A plan was forming, but he still needed answers. He caught Joe again by the stockroom door. Hey, Ethan said softly. Off the record, what's going on back there? Joe swallowed hard. I don't know anything, Joe whispered, but his darting eyes betrayed him. Listen, kid, Ethan said gently. I'm not here to get you fired, but if you know something that can help fix this place... Joe's lips trembled. They told me to keep quiet. Who's they? Joe's gaze flicked toward the manager's office. Ethan's heart sank deeper. He crouched slightly, meeting Joe's frightened stare. Joe, whatever they're doing, you don't have to carry it. Joe hesitated. Then, almost too quietly to hear, they're stealing, sir, every week. Stuff goes out the back. Sometimes they make me load it. I thought if I didn't help, they'd fire me. Ethan's stomach twisted. Why didn't you tell anyone? Who'd believe me? Joe whispered bitterly. Nobody listens to the kid. Ethan rested a hand on his shoulder. I'm listening. Joe's lip quivered. But it's not just him, Joe added shakily. It's... His voice dropped lower. There's someone higher. Someone who told the manager what to do. I heard them. On the phone once, a man called him Pete. Pete. That name sent a chill down Ethan's spine. Pete was regional. Ethan had trusted him for years. His grip on Joe's shoulder tightened. Thank you, Ethan said quietly. You're brave for telling me. Joe looked like he might cry. Ethan stepped back. This wasn't just a bad store. This was organized theft, and it ran deeper than he feared. He pulled out his phone again. Angela. He texted his top operations officer. I need you here now. Then he typed 4 more words. Bring legal and security. He looked back at Joe, who stood nervously twisting his apron. You're safe now, Ethan promised. But inside, he knew. The real fight was just beginning. Ethan didn't wait. He marched straight toward the manager's office, each step heavier than the last. The door was ajar. The manager sat inside, counting cash from a small metal box, headphones in his ears. Pete, Ethan said sharply. The manager jumped, ripping the headphones out. It's John, the manager corrected, frowning. Who the hell are you? Ethan stepped inside and slammed the door shut behind him. I'm Ethan Wells. John froze. What? Ethan held up his ID card. Owner, CEO, ring any bells? Color drained from John's face. The cash in his hands spilled onto the desk. I didn't know, John stammered. Yeah, Ethan said coldly. That's the problem. He stepped closer, voice dropping. I've been watching you. The yelling, the threats, the backdoor shipments. And now I know everything. John swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. Look. John raised his hands. It's not what you think. Save it. Ethan cut him off. Security's on their way, and compliance, and legal. John's hands trembled. You can't prove anything, John hissed. Ethan's lips curled into a cold smile. I don't need to. Joe already did. John's eyes widened. That kid? He spat. That little snitch? Ethan's expression hardened. That kid's braver than you'll ever be. John slammed a fist on the desk. You have no idea what's really going on. You think this is just me? You think I'd risk my neck for some cartons of frozen shrimp? There are bigger people above me, Wells. You're too late. Ethan's stomach tightened. Names. John leaned back in the chair, laughing bitterly. Not a chance. They'd bury me. Ethan stepped closer. You're already buried, he said quietly. The difference is whether you want to climb out. John's laugh faded. Outside, Ethan heard footsteps, security, compliance, and Angela arriving. John's gaze darted toward the door. You have no idea what you're walking into, John said softly, almost pitying. Ethan didn't flinch. I'm already inside. Angela knocked once, then entered, flanked by 2 security officers. Boss? She said briskly. Ethan nodded toward John. Take him. Separate room. No calls. John stood, shaking now. You're gonna regret this, he muttered. Maybe, Ethan said, but not as much as you. Security escorted John out. Angela shut the door behind them. You were right, she said, dropping a thick folder onto the desk. We pulled invoices. There are hundreds of thousands of phantom shipments across 5 locations, all tied to his signature. Ethan exhaled slowly. And Pete? Angela's lips tightened. Every paper trail leads back to him. Ethan stared at the folder. Pete, his trusted regional manager, his father's old friend. The betrayal cut deeper than he expected. Angela lowered her voice. We also pulled John's phone. There are calls to Pete's personal line. Long calls, late hours. Ethan pressed his palms against the desk. head bowed. "Get the FBI on the line," he said quietly. "This is bigger than internal theft." Angela's eyebrows lifted. "Already? They're en route." He looked up at her. "And Joe?" Angela smiled faintly. "He's scared, but he told me everything. We'll get him protection." Ethan nodded. "Good." He straightened, jaw tight. "And Brooke?" he asked. "Where's she?" Angela hesitated. "She's still out back, working." Ethan's chest ached. "Bring her in." Angela stepped out. Moments later, Brooke entered, wiping grease from her hands. Her face was pale, eyes were tired. "You wanted me?" Ethan looked at her, really looked at her. Not just an employee, a single mother, a survivor, a fighter caught in someone else's war. "You're not in trouble," Ethan said gently. "You've been surviving a nightmare, but that ends today." Brooke frowned. "I don't understand." Ethan walked around the desk. "I know they used you, forced you, to help move the shipments. I know why you said yes." Brooke's lips parted in shock. "You don't have to hide anymore." She stared at him. "My kids," she whispered. "They're safe," Ethan promised. "And so are you." Her shoulders crumpled, tears welling. "I didn't want this," she whispered. "I just wanted to keep my job." "I know." He reached out, steadying her. "You're not losing it," Ethan said firmly. "You're staying." She blinked. "What?" "You're staying," he repeated. "But not in the shadows, not cleaning up other people's messes. Starting tomorrow, you're moving to customer service. You're going to learn every part of this business." Her mouth trembled. "Why?" Ethan smiled softly. "Because you've already proven you're stronger than they ever were." Brooke buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. Angela stepped back inside. "FBI just arrived," she reported. Ethan looked at Brooke. "You ready to tell them everything?" Brooke wiped her face. "Yeah," she whispered. "I am." Ethan nodded once. "Good. Because of this fight, it wasn't over. It was only the beginning." The FBI agents arrived without sirens, but their presence filled the supermarket with a new electric tension. Ethan watched as they spread out, quietly flashing badges, securing files, and questioning employees. Angela stood by his side, a clipboard in hand, lips pressed into a thin, unreadable line. One agent, a woman in a navy suit, approached Ethan. "Mr. Wells," she said briskly, "we've traced the stolen inventory shipments. Pete's been laundering stolen goods through multiple businesses, including yours." Ethan swallowed hard. "And John?" he asked. The agent hesitated. "We detained him this morning. He's cooperating." "Turns out," she handed Ethan a folder, "he's not the villain here." Ethan opened it. Inside were photos. Hospital, bills, pharmacy receipts, a thin boy in a hospital gown smiling weakly at the camera. "His son," the agent said softly, "leukemia. Treatments cost more than he makes in a year." Ethan's chest tightened painfully. He took Pete's deal because he was desperate. Pete threatened to cut him off, and his health insurance, if he didn't move the shipments. Ethan closed the folder slowly, feeling the weight of every page. "They forced him," he murmured. The agent nodded. "He never kept a cent. Every dime went to the boy's treatment." A dull ache bloomed behind Ethan's eyes. He looked toward the office where John sat, head in his hands, flanked by two agents. "How long?" Ethan asked quietly. "Since last year," the agent replied. He tried to quit twice. Pete threatened to blackball him from every grocery chain in the county, said no one would hire him if he walked away. Ethan's hands curled into fists. "Where's Pete now?" "Fleeing," the agent said grimly. "But we're close. He underestimated how many witnesses were willing to talk once we started connecting the dots." Ethan stared through the glass at John. The man didn't look like a criminal. He looked like a father who had gambled everything to keep a promise. Angela placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, Ethan said slowly, that this system broke him, and I let Pete build it under my nose. He walked toward the office. Inside, John looked up, his eyes red-rimmed but dry. I know I should have stopped it, John rasped. I know. Ethan sat across from him. You should have asked for help. John let out a hollow laugh. Who was I gonna ask? Pete? HR? You? I'm just a manager, Mr. Wells. People like me don't get second chances. Ethan studied him. You do now. John blinked. What? I'm pressing charges against Pete, against the ring. Not you, Ethan said firmly. You're staying, but you're starting over, from the ground up. John's throat worked as he swallowed. Why? Because you never stopped being a father, Ethan replied quietly. And this store needs someone who remembers what it means to care. John buried his face in his hands. You won't regret it, he whispered. Ethan stood. I hope not, he turned to the agent. Let's finish this. Outside, the parking lot glistened under gray clouds as FBI vehicles pulled away, carrying away the rot that had poisoned the store. Angela walked beside Ethan. You sure about keeping him? No, Ethan admitted. But if we don't give second chances, what are we even building? Angela's lips curved into a small, approving smile. You might just fix this place after all. Ethan looked back at the store windows where John sat quietly, his shoulders squared for the first time. I'm not fixing it, Ethan murmured. I'm rebuilding it. The next morning, the store felt different. Quieter. Not in the way of emptiness, but in the way a storm leaves behind stillness. Ethan stood in the center aisle, hands in his pockets, gazing at the freshly cleaned floors. Gone were the crates Pete had used to hide stolen shipments. Gone were the whispers in dark corners. Angela approached, holding a stack of papers. Inventory audits complete, she said. We're missing more than we thought. But the leak's sealed. Ethan nodded. I expected worse. Some damage can't be counted in dollars, Angela said softly. Ethan followed her gaze. At the checkout counters, John stood wearing a crisp store apron, scanning groceries with quiet focus. His movements were steady, deliberate. He greeted each customer with a soft, practiced warmth. Yesterday, he was ready to give up, Angela murmured. Today, he's standing tall. Ethan's throat tightened. That's why I kept him. Angela handed him the papers. He's been mentoring Tyler, too, she added. Kid's soaking up everything. Ethan smiled faintly. He's turning out all right. From the back, Brooke walked forward, sleeves rolled up, clipboard in hand. Her hair was tied back neatly. There was something determined in her step. Floors cleared, Brooke reported. We finished reorganizing the produce section. Customers have already noticed. She handed Ethan a note. Lady at Register 3 said, Finally looks like a store I want to come back to. Ethan's lips twitched. That's the goal. Brooke hesitated. You're really staying involved? She asked. Ethan looked around. I can't afford not to. He stepped closer. You've been holding this place up longer than I realized. Brooke shrugged, embarrassed. I just did. What needed doing? You did more than that, Ethan corrected. And you're not going unnoticed. Brooke's eyes widened slightly. You're making me manager? Not yet, Ethan said gently, but I'm giving you the path to get there. Training, mentorship, real leadership opportunity. Brooke's chest rose with a deep, steadying breath. Deal. A faint smile pulled at her lips. Behind them, a little boy's laughter rang out. Ethan turned. John's son had entered the store, hand in hand with a nurse from the hospital across the street. His hair was growing back in soft tufts. His smile was bright, unburdened. John knelt down to scoop him into his arms, hugging him tight. Ethan watched, his chest warm with something bittersweet. Angela leaned closer. You're building something better, she said. Ethan shook his head, slowly. I'm building what should have been here all along. At the front door, a familiar customer walked in. The elderly woman Pete had insulted days ago. She paused, hesitant. Brooke approached her with a smile. "Welcome back, ma'am." The woman's eyes softened. "Place feels different." "It is different," Brooke promised. The woman nodded approvingly. Ethan stood watching it all unfold. John scanning groceries while his son sat nearby coloring. Brooke guiding customers with quiet authority. Tyler stocking shelves with newfound pride. A store reborn, not perfect, not yet whole, but breathing again. Angela tapped his arm. "Ready for the next location?" Ethan glanced back one last time. "Yeah," he said quietly. "But this one's always gonna mean something." A week later, the store no longer looked like the same place. The walls gleamed with fresh paint. Shelves were fully stocked, neatly labeled. The smell of rot was gone, replaced by warm bread from the new bakery corner and freshly brewed coffee by the entrance. Customers walked in with smiles instead of suspicion, and at the center of it all stood Brooke. She moved through the aisles, with calm authority, answering questions, helping an elderly man find his favorite cereal, sand-topping to straighten a display without losing pace. Ethan watched from the office window. "She's ready," Angela said, stepping beside him. "She was ready before I showed up," Ethan admitted. "She just needed someone to notice." Angela nodded thoughtfully. "And John?" Ethan's gaze shifted. At checkout, John handed a customer their receipt with a quiet smile. His son sat nearby reading a library book, safe, content. "He's earned more than a second chance," Ethan said. "He's earned a future." Angela tapped the window. "Customers are returning. Sales are climbing. Feedback's pouring in. You turned this place around." Ethan shook his head. "We turned it around." He stepped out of the office, walking toward Brooke. "Come here," he called softly. Brooke wiped her hands on her apron and joined him. "You said you hated the way it was," Ethan began. "But you stayed anyway." "Somebody had to," Brooke said simply. Ethan handed her a small envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Your promotion," Ethan said. "You're officially the store manager. Higher pay, full benefits, tool allowance for your mechanic certification, and flexibility to still cover the floor when you want." Brooke's hand trembled slightly as she opened the envelope. Her eyes glistened. "No one's ever invested in me like this," she whispered. "You've been investing in this place for years," Ethan said. "Time someone invested back." Behind them, John walked up holding his son's hand. "I heard the news," John said quietly. "Congratulations, Brooke." Brooke grinned, then looked down at the boy. "And you, how's school?" "Good." The boy beamed. "I got a gold star today." Brooke ruffled his hair. Ethan smiled at the scene. "You both stayed," he said softly. "You didn't give up?" "We couldn't," Brooke replied. "Some of us don't get to walk away." Ethan nodded. "No," he agreed. "But we can walk forward." The bell above the door jingled as another wave of customers entered. The store buzzed with new life, imperfect but thriving. Angela approached. "You ready?" she asked. Ethan took one last look around. "I'm ready," he said. "Let's go fix the next one." Not every broken system stays broken. Sometimes, it just needs the right person willing to look deeper, to stand up, to clean house, to rebuild. If this story moved you, if you believe second chances can change lives, share this video. Because somewhere out there, another Brooke is holding everything together. Another John is doing their best under impossible odds. And maybe all they're waiting for is someone to finally see them. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that remind us. Leadership isn't a title, it's a choice.